Hello, and welcome back to Positive Parenting with Astrology. I am your resident Gemini, Maria Riegger. Today, I'm talking about September transits, and guess what? I am actually kind of on time with this video because today, the day I'm recording this, it is September 1st, so technically I'm on time. Maybe a little bit late. But anyway, um, this is kind of a crazy month. All the really big transits are happening the first week of September, this coming week. So over this next week, if things seem out of whack to you, you are not alone, I promise. So we're going to talk about the big stuff that's occurring in the first 7 days of this month. And then we're going to talk about a couple things occurring in the second half of this month. So stay tuned. So the sun is now in Virgo. This is a opportune time to declutter your house, let go of things that are no longer serving you, that are of no use to you. That can be physical items. We can all benefit from decluttering our homes, right? That can be old patterns. It could be old friendships, things that are just not fitting in your life that cannot come with you into the next stage of life. This is an opportune time to let those things go, work toward that process. Remember too that when you're decluttering your house and making things more streamlined and more organized, you are also making it an environment in which you and your kids have a much easier time of focusing and concentrating. I love the minimalists. They have a podcast. They've been around a long time. They have a podcast. They've written a couple books. They make the comment that kids who are overwhelmed and overstimulated by just a plethora of toys can't concentrate and focus, and that's why they say, I don't have anything to play with. It's not that they don't have toys to play with, it's that they're overstimulated to the point that they cannot make a decision about which toy to play with. That happens with adults too. I know it happens with me. I'm sure it happens with a lot of you too. And I'm more of a minimalist in my home, right? So decluttering and organizing the space in your home is not just about organization for the sake of organization. Is so you and your kids have an easier time of finding items and an easier time focusing on things and an easier time concentrating on the task at hand. So think about that as you're decluttering your house. It's not just getting rid of stuff that you don't use. It's creating an environment in which you and your kids just have an easier time. Also, look at the house that Virgo sits in your chart and see what themes are going to be emphasized over the next 30 days. So Saturn is also now in retrograde in the sign of Pisces. So the energy of Saturn is directed inward. This is a great time to make detail oriented plans, professional plans, personal plans, and to think about what you want and to think about your vision for your professional life. Saturn is not super comfortable in a water sign like Pisces. Saturn is more comfortable in Cap or in Aquarius. Why may Saturn be comfortable in Aquarius? I did a video on that and you can watch it here. But my point is, this energy is not super comfortable for everybody. The retrograde Saturn, you may feel like you want to be making progress and moving forward with your plans, but something is preventing you from doing that. You may feel stymied. You may feel blocked somehow. It's very frustrating. And the Pisces energy can bring up a lot of emotional stuff. So my recommendation here is to take everything day by day, make plans, make a list of the top 2 to 3 things you want to accomplish that day, and try to focus on that as opposed to getting mired in all the details. Because as long as you are making progress toward your personal and professional goals, you are still coming out ahead and you are still succeeding, right? It's about progress, that day-to-day progress, rather than reaching those milestones. Reaching those big milestones is wonderful and we should celebrate that, but that incremental progress is important too and should also be celebrated. But this is a time of reflection, introspection, and planning. So you will be prepared when Saturn goes direct and then hits the sign of Aries. It will be full steam ahead, very action-oriented energy. So remember that this period of time, even though you may feel blocked with your goals, it is very important for the next stage. On September 2nd, so tomorrow, Mercury shifts into the sign of Virgo. You may find that communication centers around how to do things, accomplish tasks in a very precise, perfectionist way. This is also a great time to teach your kids how to articulate their boundaries and their needs because Virgo is ruled by Mercury, which compels it to use precision of language, detail oriented language to communicate needs. Virgo being an earth sign, it supports us in articulating and enforcing our boundaries. Great time to work on this with your kids. Great time for you too, the parents, to work on your boundaries and make sure you are articulating your boundaries and communicating precisely and directly, not in a passive aggressive way. This energy compels us to communicate in a very direct and precise way, and you may find that you are irritated and annoyed when people do not communicate clearly to you or communicate directly to you. Communication may also revolve around competence. Virgo is an incredibly competent energy. Make sure you are praising your kids' efforts, not just the results or the outcome. We want to encourage our kids to do tasks, engage, initiate, and complete tasks so that they eventually practice and get proficient at them. It's about progress, not perfection. It's about doing the task, not necessarily the end result. One question I'm always getting is, how do I stop procrastinating? And a common issue I see with parents and kids is perfectionism. Parents wanting kids to do things perfectly, and then kids learning that things should be done perfectly or not at all. And then when they're adults, they have issues with procrastination because they think subconsciously, well, if I can't do this perfectly from the jump, I might as well not engage in this task at all. It's not a healthy attitude to have. Things are rarely going to be perfect the first time we do them. It's about practicing the activity, practicing the task. It's about the progress. It's about the process of doing something from beginning to end and accomplishing that, even if it's not perfect. As one of my fellow coaches likes to say, do it now and do it janky. That means, do it now and don't necessarily expect perfection. I like to think of it as having balance. Be prepared, and it's okay if things do not turn out perfectly as you expected them or as you wanted them to. Maybe you learned something in that process that you can use the next time you do that task. On September 6th, Uranus turns retrograde. It's going to start out retrograde in Gemini, and it's going to go back in Taurus, in the sign of Taurus, during the retrograde period. You may experience tech delays, snafus, pretty common when Uranus is in retrograde. I would think this is going to be more common when Uranus is retrograding in Gemini. I encourage you at this time, because that energy is going to be directed inwards with the retrograde period, to explore how you and your family are handling all the societal changes that are happening right now, especially regarding tech in education, what the educational situation of your kids is like. Is it serving them? Do any changes need to be made? How are your kids doing with learning in general? Are they finding learning a chore? Are they finding school a chore? Are they in that stage where they still like to go to school? Younger kids may still like to go to school. Curiosity should be encouraged all the time for older or younger kids. And you want to make sure that they are focused on learning the material and learning skills, not necessarily the end result of the grades. They're not necessarily focused on getting the grade. They're focused on learning the skills, learning the material, learning the subject matter. And explore whether school is supporting them in that, or whether you may need to think about making some changes to their school and learning environment. There may be a lot of rethinking during this time. This energy supports, coming up with new conclusions, rethinking things as new data comes in. So I encourage you to be open to making any shifts, not to be wedded to any particular idea yet. Be curious, take notes, get organized, be prepared, all those things. I say all this, and then I also want to caution you, if the universe, spirit, God is forcing you to make some change, if you have to make some change, if you are compelled to make some decision during this retrograde period, that is okay. Just know that the universe is forcing you to make a decision on this, and you're going to make the best decision based on the available data you have right now. Okay. Sometimes a good decision results in a bad outcome through no fault of your own and because of things that you had no control over. That happens, right? It doesn't mean it was a bad decision. So remember that if you are forced to make a decision, make it with the available data and feel confident that that's the decision I had to make at the time. Maybe you can revisit it later. My point is, don't spend too much energy, rethinking that or rehashing stuff that's in the past that you already had to make a decision about. Now, on September 7th is kind of the big transit of the month. We have a full moon, lunar eclipse in the sign of Pisces. I'm going to do a separate video on that. So the only thing I'll say on that right now is that because it's in Pisces, it's probably going to bring up a lot of emotional stuff. Remember that even with older kids, teens, and tweens, they have an emotional intensity that is developmentally normal. And you can expect more of that at this time. Make sure you are accepting of the emotions. I'm not saying you have to put up with any disrespect, absolutely not, but make sure you are not shaming your kids for the intensity of their emotional expression. Make sure that you are guiding them. Make sure you are open to them. Take care of yourselves during this time. This is not a time to overschedule for you and your kids. This is a time to engage in deep reflection and introspection. This is also a time to embrace having downtime at home, introvert time, as I like to call it in my house. Moments where you don't have to feel pressured to do anything. Moments where you can just reflect and gather your thoughts. That's going to be very important during this time. And make sure your kids are getting opportunities to do that too, that reflection and introspection. Now, that's what's happening the first week of September. What's happening the rest of the month? September 18th, Mercury enters the sign of Libra. Mercury is very comfortable in air signs. This is going to be pretty positive, optimistic energy. It's also relationship-oriented energy. You can expect communication to revolve around relationships, how you're doing in relationships, other people's needs. Libra is an energy that also focuses on the needs of the other person in the relationship, sometimes to your detriment. So make sure you are not constantly sacrificing your own needs for the needs of the other person. Whether you're talking about a relationship with your kids or your partner or your friends, explore whether your needs are getting met in a relationship. Clearly, with your kids, it's a little different because they're not adults yet. They're not, it's not appropriate for parents to rely on kids to meet the emotional needs of the parent. That's going to look different with your kids. But look at whether there's anything that needs to be shifted, anything that needs to be communicated. Are you practicing your boundaries? This is a good time to remind your kids about boundaries. You have the right to your boundaries too. You have the right to your alone time too. Is that being communicated to your kids? Are your kids, how are they with their boundaries? Are they communicating boundaries to you and to others? Right? Sometimes kids are really good about communicating boundaries to the parents, but not so much with other people because they're not as comfortable with that dynamic. So it's a good time to explore, again, based on the age and development of your kids, whether your kids need any more practice stating their boundaries with other people. If you have older kids, teens and tweens, if they're into relationships or starting to date even, this is a really good time to talk about relationships. A great conversation opener is, hey, what do you think about relationships? What do you think makes for a healthy relationship? What would an ideal dating relationship look like to you? That's a great conversation starter to start helping your kids think about what dynamics are healthy. We certainly want our kids to be able to recognize toxic relationship dynamics. The day after that, September 19th, Venus shifts into the sign of Virgo. Not a super comfortable transit because Virgo can be a little bit controlling, is very precision oriented. Virgo can also be very exacting and demanding in relationships. That sometimes causes friction with the other person in the relationship because the other person would like some autonomy too. So watch your words and your tone when you're talking with your kids during this time. Remember to always approach from a place of connection and attachment over correction. On September 21st, we've got a new moon. Now, this is something crazy. On September 21st, we have a new moon in Virgo. If you recall, on August, I almost said October, I'm already thinking Halloween. I can't believe that. Of course, Halloween decorations are already up. They were up like 2 or 3 weeks ago in my area. It's crazy. What were we saying? Almost said October again. On August 23rd, August 23rd, we had a new moon in Virgo. Yes. Interestingly, About 30 days later, on September 21st, we have a second new moon, also in Virgo. That's crazy. That rarely happens. Um, this is like a second opportunity to let things go, to declutter, to leave old stuff behind as we enter new phases of our lives. An incredible opportunity. There's also the same day a partial solar eclipse. It's crazy. The sun's in Virgo, the moon's going to be in Virgo. Gives you a great opportunity to revisit plans, revisit goals, revisit your strategies, rethink things. The transit also ushers in the season of autumn, an incredible chance for us to let things go, an incredible chance for us to continue on our personal growth journey. Then on September 22nd, Mars enters the sign of Scorpio. Mars likes to be in a fire sign. So Mars in a water sign, not necessarily, in theory, not necessarily a comfortable placement. At least it shouldn't be. But as Robert Hand says, Scorpio is the only water sign that will fight. So this is actually kind of a comfortable placement for Mars. Makes for a lot of intense emotional expression, outbursts, aggressiveness, especially in communication, especially in the pursuit of goals. In fact, this transit supports your laser focus on your goals. It's actually a good time to use that energy to hyper focus and concentrate on your task at hand, on the goals that you have set for yourself. So take that energy over that time to do that. Power dynamics may also be front and center. They almost always are with a Scorpio transit like this. So if you find yourself getting in power struggles with your kids, try to detach and take more of an observer role and see what's going on here. You can even ask your kid, what's going on? Like, what are we doing? What's going on with you? Anything you want to talk about? Sometimes when you just kind of detach from that whole dynamic, you'd be surprised what happens because it's easy and this happens to all of us. You find yourself in the back and forth power struggle. And if you just like kind of detach and just stop fighting, sometimes that takes the wind out of the sails, so to speak, and your kids the power struggle will deflate a little bit and then you can engage in a conversation. Maybe take some time to cool off and engage in a conversation. So just pay attention if that dynamic is happening. Try to step out of it, take more of an observer role. When things have calmed down, have a conversation with your kid and ask open-ended questions like, what's going on here? And remember too, because with Scorpio transits like this, autonomy is always a big issue. Remember that when your kids, if you are finding yourself in those power struggles right now with your kids, remember that your kids protecting their autonomy is a strong developmental need. That sometimes they may be arguing about stuff that to you that makes no sense, and it may make no sense, and it may be objectively insignificant. But the fact that they are protecting their autonomy to them has value. It's not necessarily the issue, and it's not about you, the parent. It's about their need to protect their autonomy at that moment. That is a strong developmental need. So remember that. And also give them opportunities to use that autonomy. Ask for their input. This is a thing I've been talking about recently a lot, and I'm trying to practice it myself, is ask for their input when it's appropriate. What do you think about this? What do you think about whatever? Like, what activity would you like to do today? Anytime there's an opportunity for them to be included, their input to be included, that is great because that helps them practice that autonomy in a healthier setting where you're not engaging in power struggle. It's where you're not engaging in power struggles all the time. It's impossible to avoid power struggles, especially as kids get older, but just recognize the dynamic for what it is, which is about them protecting their independence and autonomy and decision making. And that should be encouraged. Support them in doing that in a respectful, open, direct way. With Scorpio energy, there can also be an increased need for privacy. So if you find your kid seeking more alone time, that may be why. You certainly want to be involved and want to know what's going on, but if they ask for more privacy or just need more alone time, that may be because of this energy. And then on September 22nd, the sun thankfully moves into Libra. Relationship-oriented energy, generally pretty optimistic. Air energy usually brings a more optimistic vibe. It's quite welcome during this time after the heavy transits of the month of September. The energy supports connection, it supports relationships, Don't be surprised if your kids see connection with you more frequently after the sun goes into Libra. Also, take a moment to celebrate your parenting wins over the month of September. Celebrate those wins, however small, and make a list of things that you and your kids are grateful for. The gratitude practice. My kid rolls his eyes when I make him do this. I like to state one thing that happened. One thing that happened today that worked out was a good thing that happened. What worked out today? What's one thing you're grateful for? What's one thing you are looking forward to tomorrow? That simple gratitude practice helps to kind of reframe things. Also helps to de-escalate some tension. And remember that's just a good practice to do. So thanks for listening. We'll be back very soon with a video about the lunar eclipse in Pisces happening on September 7th. Thanks for your attention.